working with rotations, like the Earth rotates around the solar system. I mean, the sun. We're part of the solar system. So when we think of a rotation, the T and the A stand for turn around. So what this does is it turns a figure around a fixed point. Our fixed point in the solar system is the sun, and that's called our center of rotation. So the sun is at the center of all of the rotation. This year in 8th grade, we're only going to use the origin, which is 0, 0. So we're always rotating around the origin. And every time we turn, it's going to be in 90 degrees. So it's either going to be 90 degrees, 180 degrees, 270 degrees. When we turn clockwise, you think of a clock and how the hands go. That means that we're turning this direction. When we turn counterclockwise, that means that we turn this direction. So every time we go from one quadrant to another, that's a 90-degree rotation. In other words, looking down here at these examples, it says use a number of quadrants. The figure is rotated to describe the degrees of rotation, both clockwise and counterclockwise. So first thing we need to find is our pre-image, our image that's a nice clean copy and hasn't been moved. So our pre-image is right here in quadrant 2. If I turn it to the right, I'm going to run into A prime, or my image. So I went one turn from quadrant 2 to quadrant 1. That means that it was only one turn, which is a 90-degree rotation. Now I could go backward and turn it counterclockwise. So instead of making a turn to the right, I'm going to turn to the left. When I turn it here, I do not hit my image. So I got to turn it again. I still don't hit my image. I turn it again. I finally hit my image. That was from quadrant 2, I went to quadrant 3, quadrant 4, quadrant 1. So that was 3 quadrants. Each quadrant is 90 degrees, so that was 270 degrees rotation. Again, you have to find your nice clean copy. This is my pre-image before it was moved. This is my image after it was moved. So clockwise, I would turn once, twice, 3 times. So 90, 90, and 90. This is 270. Counterclockwise, I start here, but I turn this direction, which is 90 degrees. Again, finding C to C prime. So original, pre-image to image. I turn once, twice. I turn once, twice. On this one, it doesn't matter whether I turn clockwise or counterclockwise. Both are 180 degrees. All right, I'm gonna wait about 30 seconds because I want you to pause this, try 4, 5, and 6 on your own, and then come back and check to see how you did. All right, there are your answers. So hopefully you did okay on those. So here are rules. And if you were in class, you saw a lot more with this, but we're paying attention to, this is clockwise. I'm going to highlight some things here. Counterclockwise, clockwise, counterclockwise. 180, it does not matter. It's going to be the same rule. So our rule is going to say to swap the X and Y values. So we swap our X and Y, and then we're going to change the second value to the opposite sign. So it's going to start with X and Y. It says to swap them places, and then the second value, which is this one, is going to become opposite. 180 degrees, whether it's counter or clockwise, is the same. We're going to leave the X and Y in their spots, but we're going to change both of them to the opposite. So again, original, they do not change spots, but they change signs. And then our last one, this is if it's 270 clockwise, so 3 turns to the right or 1 turn to the left, we still have to swap our x and y values again. But this time, on this one, we change the second. This one, we're going to change the first. So this one would look like original xy, says swap places, and change the first value. All right, so I'm gonna make this a little bit smaller just so you can see while I do this. This one says we're going 270 degrees clockwise. So this is the rule that I'm using. It says start with x and y. We're gonna swap them spots and change the first value. So point A is at -1, -2. B is at -4, -5. And C is at -5, -2. First thing I'm going to do is swap them. Step 1 says swap your x and y. So all I'm going to do is swap it. I didn't change anything, I just swapped it. And then it says take your first value and change it to the opposite. So now this is +2, -1. So now point A would be at 2, -1. So A prime. B, swap them spots. I didn't change anything, I just swapped my x and my y, and then it says change your first value to the opposite. Well, right now my first value is negative, I'm going to change it to positive. So it would be 5 and -4. And that's B prime. And then our next one, swap your x and y, change the first one to the opposite. So it'd be +2, -5. And you've got your rotation. All right, you should be able to try this one on your own, remembering that this is my image because it has that mark, and that's my pre-image.